Cinema Communications attempt to showcase the other works that go on in the program.
We wanted to show the other work that students do at Dawson College in the St. Commons program. So we wanted to show, the art forms, the other sound projects, documentary stuff that wasn't in the main media night. So it's basically like an art installation.
It actually began last semester when Phil sent us emails saying he wanted to do something different this semester. So he set up a class that was aimed at making Media Night 2 and Media Night 1 and doing some different projects. So everyone who joined the class was in it, and then we began right away with trying to come up with ideas for it.
If I would say from the beginning, all we had was a name. We only had Media Night 2, and we really had to process and think about what did you want to do with this concept. So since we wanted to do something that was kind of day and night to Media Night, we wanted to do something more darker and have a more interesting an experimental kind of feeling to Media Night 2.
And so at first we weren't exactly sure how we wanted to do it, so it was kind of feeling really vague. But we got started and we kind of found a structure, and we kind of decided that we wanted it to kind of be a little more experimental and less so narrative.
And then the more we played around, we came up with the idea of a carnival circus kind of thing. And so having booths or tents and have people immersed in the art. And so then we had to create the space. My job, my official title was I was the boss of space, as our teacher put it. I was in charge of organizing and shaping the space that we would be using. We used a room called 5B16, which was this conference hall at Dawson on the 5th floor. And so I was in charge of placing things within the room and then placing the art pieces within the room as well. So creating concepts as we learned what was going to be coming in, so making sure that everything was cohesive and that didn't feel like a science fair when you walked in, that it really felt like a really interesting, living, breathing art experience, because that was our big focus. We wanted it to be an experience, not just I'm walking through a boring museum. We wanted it to be really, really alive and interesting. So fundraising for this event had kind of different sections. We have a bake sale at one point. We had a photo booth on Valentine's Day to try and raise money. And then another big part of it was just pulling money from the program.
The most memorable part for me was on St. Patrick's Day. We were supposed to organize a float for Dawson students, and it was one of the main fundraisers for the events. So what ended up happening is that a majority of the class ended up not coming to the fundraiser. So the next day at class, for me, the most memorable moment was Phil Vuitton's speech. Don't f*** with my people, and Phil Vuitton saw it really as a disrespectful way of interaction between students. It was kind of like a wake-up call. He was telling us, wake up, we're doing something, we're trying to make something happen, so if we don't all take our initiatives and put them together and do something with it, nothing's gonna happen, It was something, yeah.
One of the biggest problems with Media Night 2 we had, I think, was coming up with a name for it. At first, we called it Media Night 2 as a placeholder. We were gonna change the name, but then we decided to stick with the name Media Night 2 because we couldn't really find another name for it. We couldn't decide on a different name. We had many different subtitles at some points, but we eventually dumped them all and we just kept Media Night 2 because we found it represented what we were doing. It was different from Media Night 1, and we wanted to show that, but we also wanted to show that it was still linked with the cinema department and Media Night 1 and all of that.
It confused so many people to have it called Media Night 2. No one understood what it was. That's probably contributed to the big confusion that I had to go around clearing up. So I actually ended up going class to class to class and explaining what it was and how to participate and what they could give in. And so that was a big issue, making sure that everybody in the public got the same message and that they understood it clearly.
Towards the mid-end of the semester is really when things got underway, when people started either submitting their works or gathering the works.
The last 2 weeks, I would say, was really hectic. Well, one of the contributions I had to do was bring up this kind of entrance screen to Media Night 2, where we had 3 screens like placed beside each other, and we had to show something that would kind of open up to Media Night 2. So me and Alex Tremblay had to create kind of like an experimental video that would go together and that would match and contrast each other.
Basically what you had is on both of them you had a column with a flashing light that was from the underpass, and whenever cars would pass, the cars would appear instead of the ambient movie, and they would just pass, and then the ambient movie would come back. So you had on both sides the 2 sides of the underpass. It was very long. It was a lot of work, and I think it came out pretty well.
10 minutes before we opened it to the public, and there was a big lineup outside, and we knew there was a lineup, but we couldn't let them in because we still had to fix some small details with a lot of the exhibits.
So I came down and I saw that one screen wasn't working and that another screen didn't have the data for one of our things, and I kind of freaked out, so I rushed downstairs. I re-exported our stuff. I'm a perfectionist. Everything needs to work perfectly or I'm not happy.
I had a fish aquarium and I had to set it up at the very last minute. So in the last 2 hours before the show started, I was up and I was putting up this huge sculpture, and then, okay, it's done, and I had my computer hooked up and I had my sound hooked up, and I stood up and I was in a corner near the front of the room, and I stood up and I turned around and the whole room was set up and it was beautiful.
We had like many different things. We had vertical videos, like TVs that were placed vertically instead of horizontally. We had a big like rear view projection screen, and when people would walk by, you'd see the shadow of the people walking by. We had an ambient video screen. Also, behind that, we had a stairway going down, and we would project found footage videos in it.
I think by the end of it, we had 13 TV sets, something like 27 computers. We had a projector screen, we had 4 projectors. We had someone whose art was projected inside a tent, and so they brought in their own tent for that.
We had a full house. There was a lot of people there, and everyone there really enjoyed themselves. I spoke to many people, and they all seemed to be having a lot of fun, and they loved all of the exhibits.
Actually, there was a lady from Concordia at the night, and she didn't know who I was. She didn't know that I basically planned the whole thing. She was talking to me, and she's in charge of a similar event that goes on at Concordia, and she said we kicked their butts. She said, "You guys, this is so much more amazing than what we've ever done." And she's like, this is really something. You guys have really set the bar high for Concordia.
I think we did a great job, and from everyone who I've spoken with, they agree with it. Everyone loved it. Everyone the night of, they were all like really interested in everything that was going on.
Yeah, I feel that as a first production, as something that never was done before, I think we did an incredible job.
I know faculty and like all of Dawson was really impressed by how Media Night 2 turned out. And it was amazing to see how it worked out.
Things I would change, I would definitely make sure that the message got out sooner. I'd have made sure the rest of Dawson knew, because it was great that our program showed up. It was great. Almost our entire program showed up. A lot of Dawson faculty showed up. Like I said, Concordia faculty came. I think if the rest of Dawson had known, that would have made it like much more impressive.
I really want to see what next year students and the next year after that would do, with what we created. So I want to see a continuity with the projects that we've done in this class.
I hope this documentary will be shown because I really hope that it will help people realize what we've done with MediaNet 2 and help them try to do something better than us and like improve on our ideas. Even though I'm not here anymore, I would love to go back and see like what's new and what they've done because there's a lot of talented people at Dawson.
I think we definitely have something to be proud of as winter 2013 graduates.